Alright, so we're going to be installing an amplifier in a BMW 328i. This is an 07. It's got the battery in the back right here, which makes it a lot easier. So this is actually a pretty simple process. You're going to take two wires from the battery. They go into the amplifier. On your positive, you're going to have a fuse in between. And so you're going to go like there. Negative goes to negative. Then you take these two. They plug into the back of the amplifier here. After you do that, you're going to need your signal wires. What your signal wires are going to do is they're going to come out. This is a line out converter. The positive and negative leads on the line out converter are going to tie into our car speakers. And for that, we're going to use these little things here. So basically we clip this onto the speaker wire in the car, put one of these on the leads off the line out converter, and plug it in like that. And then once we have that, we take these cables here, plug them into the line out converter, bring them here, plug them into the back of the amp. Then all you need is the signal from the amp to the subwoofers. So we just have some speaker wire here. What we're going to do is split it, put it on the line out to the subs, and we're done. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is tie in the line out converter into the stock amp. The stock amp is right here in the trunk. And what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to pull this tab off on the stock amp. So you're going to put a screwdriver right in between here, pull this flap down, and then once that flap pulls down, your wires should come out. Alright, so once you have your wire disconnected, or your wires disconnected from your amp, we're going to take these little tabs here and we're going to clip them into the wires. So for this car is 2007 BMW 328i. The big red and white wire here is the positive to the mid bass, and the yellow and brown is the negative to the mid bass. So you just take these tabs, positive one for example, get some pliers, and alright, so once you got them squeezed on like that, it's a bit harder than I thought. Then you're going to take these, clip these in, take your wires from your line out converter, and plug those in. Alright, so we just did our left side. Now we're going to do the right side. For this car, it's going to be the red and blue and the brown and white. The red and blue is going to be your positive this time, and the brown and white's going to be the negative. Alright, now so we're going to attach these pink tabs that go onto the wiring harness coming out of the amp. We're going to put them on the line out converter and crimp them. Once they're on there so they won't come off, we're going to plug them into the amplifier wires. Alright, so now that we've plugged all the wires in from the line out converter, we're going to bring our wire here that goes to the amp. We're going to plug it into our line out converter like this. We're going to take our amplifier wiring harness and plug it back into the amplifier. Alright, so to get the wiring harness in the car, or back in the amplifier in this BMW 328, you have to take this little tab here that we flipped down at the beginning, flip it down again, press it in, and flip it up, and it locks in. And then we can put our line out converter somewhere in there, put our cap back on, and have these wires going to the amp coming out. Alright, so for this 328, we're going to try to wire tuck it. So we're just putting our wires from the line out converter to the amplifier. We're putting those under kind of this carpet matting. And we're just going to pull it through so you won't be able to see the wires. And we're going to put our amplifier in this little tray thing here in the bottom of the trunk. Alright, now that the wire is tucked, we can't see any wires here where the stock amp is. If we look under here though, there's our signal wire going to the amplifier, which is going to go in there. Alright, so right now we're attaching the positive lead to the subwoofer. Here's our fuse right here. I just wrapped it in tape to keep it from jumping. We took a bolt off the positive battery lead here, right here. I'm just going to put the wire in there, put this washer on top, and crank the bolt down. Alright, so when you do this, make sure that the positive and negative will not touch. To prevent this, I am just connecting the
the negative wire to a little wire end here. That way it won't be able to short.
Alright, and now we're going to do the exact same thing for the other side. If you have the battery in the back of the car, just put it directly on the negative battery lead. If you do not have a battery in the back of the car and it's on in the front of the car, just find some place on the frame, some metal place like this maybe, and attach it to there. And that'll act as your ground. Alright, now that we have our positive and negative leads coming off the battery right here, we are going to plug them into the amp. So we're going to look at the back of the amp. One of them says B+, one of them says ground. I'm holding the positive right now, which will be the B+. So all I'm going to do is put it in this Allen wrench hole here and tighten this screw down. Alright, once you have your positive and negative leads in the back of the amplifier, it will have power. If it does not have power, there is going to be a little one in the middle here. It says REM, or remote. That is going to take a positive signal. So you can either attach it to a switch and then attach it to the positive lead of the battery, or possibly a positive wire from your speaker if you want to turn on whenever the speakers turn on, or really wherever you want to, wherever there's a positive lead that you can select on or off. You can tie that in and that'll control whether the amp is on or off. Alright, so now we're just putting our line in. This is where we're coming from the power inverter thing from the amp. Pretty straightforward. And then the only thing we have left to do is on the back of the amp, there are two wires here. It says speaker output. We are going to take a wire like this, put it into the speaker output, and then on the other end of the wire, plug those into the subs, and we should be ready to go. Alright, so we got the amplifier all hooked up. Here are the two wires coming from our speaker. Basically this just takes signal that normally would go into the speakers, brings it into the amp for the amp to amplify. These two wires from the positive and negative of your battery give the amp power. It's all converted, and out here in the back to this wire here goes your sub signal. Plug this into the subs and they should work. Alright, so in true Hoonedout fashion, we're too lazy to put a switch in, so we're just going to take this that takes the positive signal and we touch it to the positive lead on the going into the amp, and voila, the amp turns on. Alright, so we got everything installed in the car, and then we just have our two little sub cables right here run up. When we close it, all you can see is those little sub cables. Absolutely nothing's visible. Gonna get some subs, plug them in there, and we'll be ready to go. Alright, we got the subs in the car. Here are sub cables. We're just gonna attach them, put them in there, and the other side there, and we're all hooked up.